Christmas Eve in my family has always been noisy and crowded. But that year, something felt off the moment I stepped inside. My name is John. I'm 27. Usually, family gatherings are a mix of awkward chit-chat and backhanded jokes. But this night carried a tension I couldn't quite identify. The house smelled of pine and cinnamon, with the same old decorations from my childhood filling every corner. The dining table was already packed with food, while my cousins whispered, giggled, and shot glances at me before quickly looking away. I tried to brush it off and settle in, but the uneasiness lingered. I sat in my usual spot near the end of the table, doing my best to tune out the overlapping conversations. My mom was laughing too loudly at every word my aunt spoke. My dad held court with my uncles at the head of the table, acting like he was the king of Christmas. Across from me sat my younger cousin Mark, restless, like he was building up to something big. Dinner was its usual chaos, plates passing back and forth, people reaching across without asking, and conversations darting so quickly from one subject to another it was hard to follow. I was halfway through my wine when Mark suddenly stood up, tapping his glass with a spoon. "Everyone," he said, grinning like he had just pulled the ultimate prank. "I want to make a toast." Instantly, the room quieted. "We all pitched in this year," he continued dramatically, "and we bought my parents a boat." The table erupted with cheers. My aunt gasped into her hands. My uncle jumped up, hugging anyone nearby, and half the room applauded like someone had announced an engagement. I smiled politely, but inside, my stomach dropped. I knew my aunt and uncle had daydreamed about owning a boat for years, but I never thought they were serious. Sure, it was a generous gift, but the smug way everyone carried on made me uneasy. Then my mom turned to me, face glowing with pride, or maybe just the wine, and casually said, "Oh, and we used your savings for the final payment. Hope you don't mind." For a moment, I couldn't even process it. The room was still cheering. My cousin bowed like a performer, and I just sat there, gripping my wine glass so hard I thought it might break. "What?" I muttered, low enough that only the people near me heard. "Don't be dramatic," my mom waved me off. "It was just sitting there. Now it's something that benefits the whole family. You'll get to enjoy the boat too." Every pair of eyes turned to me, waiting. My dad smirked, expecting a tantrum. My brother chuckled. Even my cousin suddenly avoided my gaze, busying himself with his plate. But I didn't shout. I didn't slam the table. Instead, I calmly took a sip of wine, set the glass down, and pulled out my phone. Unlocking it, I placed it face up on the table. "You know," I said quietly, "I think everyone should see this." The video started playing. Laughter around the table faded as people realized what they were hearing. Silence filled the room, except for the faint sound from my phone. My mom froze. My dad's smirk disappeared. My cousin went pale. I leaned back, letting the video run. By the end, the only sound was the faint clink of a dropped fork. My phone buzzed with messages and calls moments later, but I ignored it. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Mark sat back down, his earlier confidence gone. My aunt stared hard at her plate. Finally, my mom spoke, her voice unnaturally high. "John," she tried to laugh, "that wasn't necessary. You're ruining the mood." I stayed silent, just staring. My dad cleared his throat. "You didn't need to make such a scene. We told you. It's for the family. You'll benefit too." "Yeah," my brother added with his mouth full of potatoes. "You're selfish. It's just money. You live rent-free, so it's not like you need it." That cut deep. Yes, I lived above the garage, but it wasn't free. I'd been paying reduced rent since college. Money they'd told me was going into savings for me. 5 years of trust, gone in an instant. My aunt chimed in with her usual patronizing tone. "Sweetheart, think of it as a gift. This boat will give us memories. You can take friends out, fish with your dad. It's for you too." A gift. They had stolen my savings, celebrated it, and now expected gratitude. I scanned the table. Half avoided my eyes in discomfort. The other half clearly waited for me to apologize. "I'm not upset," I finally said calmly. "I just thought everyone should know the truth." The video I had played was a recording from last week, a conversation between my parents and cousin. My mom had laughed. "John won't care. He never stands up for himself." My cousin hesitated, asking if they were sure, and my dad said, "He's too soft. He'll sulk, then get over it." And no one spoke after that. Dinner carried on in strained silence, cutlery clinking like nothing had happened. After dessert, I slipped into the kitchen. My parents whispered sharply in the living room. "You shouldn't have played that," my mom hissed when she cornered me. "You embarrassed us." "You embarrassed yourselves," I replied flatly. "That money was doing nothing," my dad snapped. "We gave you food, a roof, support. You owe this family." And there it was. It wasn't about a boat. It was about control. My savings had always been theirs in their eyes. My birthday money that vanished. The loans never repaid. This wasn't new, just the first time I called them out. The night ended in awkward goodbyes, my aunt whispering not to ruin Christmas, my brother smirking, "Enjoy living above the garage forever." Later, my parents tried again to justify it. "We didn't mean to hurt you. Don't you want your family happy?" my mom asked softly. "Not at the cost of my future," I said firmly. "You're dramatic," my dad shot back. "You should thank us for including you." There was nothing left to say. I locked my door for the first time in months and lay awake replaying years of being overlooked, dismissed, or used. In the days after, calls poured in. My mom, my aunt, my cousin, all telling me to let it go. It's Christmas. My dad finally texted, if I skipped New Year's dinner, I should find another place to live. Instead of scaring me, it fueled my anger. That savings was supposed to be my down payment on a house, my ticket to independence. They hadn't just taken money, they had stolen years of planning. New Year's came, and I stayed upstairs, listening to the laughter downstairs. At midnight, my brother texted, "Grow up, it's just money." But I wasn't sulking anymore. That night, I decided I'd get my money back and make sure they never dismissed me again. January passed in heavy silence. They stopped leaving my mail for me. One day, I caught my dad slipping my letters into a drawer. That night, I checked and found bank statements, withdrawals I hadn't made. Another piece of my savings was gone, days after Christmas. When I confronted them, my mom said calmly, "Your aunt needed help with marina fees. It's family money." "That's my money," I shouted. My dad leaned back. "You saved because we gave you a place to live. Consider it repayment." That was the breaking point. I realized no argument would change how they viewed me. My savings, my independence, it was never really mine to them. And from that moment on, I stopped being their silent, compliant son. I began documenting everything, moving money into accounts they didn't know about, preparing to leave. They thought I'd cave like always, but they were wrong. This was no longer about money. I wasn't going to let them take that away from me again. Studios, basements, even unfinished spaces, anything that was mine alone. I began documenting everything. Every unauthorized withdrawal, every message from my brother bragging about using my car, every note or email from my parents about family money. I took photos of the dent in my car and the scratches on my furniture after their visits. I uploaded every bank statement to the cloud. It became routine. I worked during the day and planned at night. I stopped telling them where I went. Quietly, I began selling things I no longer needed. Old electronics, furniture, even collectibles from high school. Every euro went straight into a new account they didn't know about. But the emotional weight didn't lift immediately. Some days I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the wall, drained. Some nights I'd hear them laughing downstairs and wonder if I was overreacting. If I should just apologize, let it go, pretend nothing had happened. Then I'd remember the look on my mother's face when she said family money like it belonged to her, or the smirk on my brother's face when he dented my car without a care. Those memories kept me moving. By February, I had secured a small but decent one-bedroom apartment across town. The landlord agreed to hold it for me while I organized paperwork. Knowing it was waiting gave me a strange mix of calm and determination. Meanwhile, my parents grew colder. My mom knocked less often. My dad barely acknowledged me. When they did speak, it was about the apartment. "We need a definite move-out date," my dad said over coffee one morning, like he was confirming an appointment. "You'll have one soon," I replied neutrally. My brother, meanwhile, seemed to enjoy provoking me, making loud jokes about my future room or asking if I'd take the garage door with me. It was childish, but it worked. It made my blood boil. Still, I didn't react. I just kept preparing. It was lonely and painful to realize I couldn't rely on my own family. But there was power in the quiet. Every plan I made and every step I took felt like reclaiming what they had tried to take. By early March, everything was lined up. First month's rent, security deposit, movers booked. They still believed they controlled me, still thought they could decide when and how I left. That's when a bigger idea formed. If they turned my life into a spectacle and used my money while laughing about it, maybe it was time for them to face the consequences. March felt like a turning point, not just because I'd found a way out, but because for the first time in years, I was acting on my own terms. Every decision, every email, every item I sold was a piece of my life taken back. The first taste of freedom came when I moved the last of my savings into my separate bank account. I'd been careful, making small transfers so nothing would raise suspicion. Seeing the total finally safe brought a mix of relief and adrenaline. It wasn't as much as it should have been, thanks to what they'd taken, but it was mine, untouchable. That same day, I got a call from a company I'd applied to months earlier. A remote job with better pay, better benefits, and completely outside my parents' network. The timing felt poetic. I accepted immediately. Suddenly, my future came into focus. With my new salary and savings, I could afford the apartment and furnish it exactly how I wanted. Clean, simple, modern, no hand-me-downs. I began packing in secret, not with obvious cardboard boxes, but in stackable storage bins hidden in my closet. Clothes, books, kitchen items, one piece at a time. By mid-month, my room looked normal, unless you looked closely. I kept my head down at home. When my parents asked about my move-out date, I smiled faintly and said, "I'm working on it." My calmness unsettled them. They were used to me getting defensive or emotional, not steady and resolved. Then something unexpected happened. My mom started trying to be nice before I left. Cookies outside my door, texts like, "Made lasagna if you want some." It wasn't sincere, just an attempt to smooth things over so she wouldn't look bad to the family. I thanked her politely and went back upstairs. If anything, it made me more certain about leaving. I didn't want crumbs of kindness. I wanted respect, and they weren't capable of giving it. By early April, I'd signed the lease and set the move-in date. Walking through the empty apartment, picturing where everything would go, felt surreal. It wasn't big, but it had tall windows, sunlight streaming in, and most importantly, it was mine. No one could walk in without permission. No one could dictate how I lived. I threw myself into setting it up. Weekends went to buying second-hand furniture and refinishing it myself. I found a sturdy desk online and spent a Saturday assembling it, smiling the whole time. It felt like building my life from the ground up. With the new job starting, my schedule became more structured. I woke early, made coffee in peace, and worked from the new apartment a few days a week while waiting for the official move. My performance impressed my manager so much they hinted at a leadership role later in the year. That flicker of pride I hadn't felt in years returned. I didn't tell my parents about any of it. Not the job, not the apartment, not the move date. I let them believe I was struggling. My brother even joked at dinner that I'd probably end up in a sketchy basement apartment. I smiled and let him think so. Each day, the power dynamic shifted more. I planned my exit carefully. Movers scheduled for a day my parents would be at work and my brother out of town. A locksmith ready to change the locks that same afternoon. Even small victories felt intoxicating. The day I got my first paycheck, I bought a quality coffee maker. Nothing extravagant, but an upgrade from the cheap one upstairs. It sat in its box at the new apartment, waiting for move-in day, like a small symbol of the life ahead. My parents, meanwhile, grew impatient. My dad left hints, brochures for shared housing, comments about the tight rental market. Instead of pressure, I felt satisfaction. For the first time, I was ahead. By mid-April, everything was ready. Only one thing remained: telling them on my terms. And that's when the second half of my plan took shape. Leaving quietly would have been satisfying, yes, but part of me wanted them to know, really know, what they had done and see how far I'd come without them. I thought of the Christmas video I'd played, how powerful it was to make them sit in silence, confronted by their own words. Maybe I could do that again, but bigger. I combed through my saved files, organizing them into a clear, undeniable timeline. Withdrawals, texts, photos of damage, casual remarks about family money. Seeing it all in one place showed me how much I'd tolerated. I didn't just want to leave. I wanted them to understand they had lost me. As move-in day approached, I almost looked forward to the confrontation. Not for a fight, but for the moment I'd finally say what I'd held back for years. By the last week of April, I was packed, my new apartment ready, and my move scheduled. The final week felt calm, almost too calm. My parents seemed to sense something had shifted, but still didn't know how far along I was. 2 days before the move, I overheard them in the kitchen. "We should give Jay's room to Mark," my mom said casually. "He's looking for a cheaper place. This would solve our problem." "Not a bad idea," my dad replied. "Once John's gone, we can repaint, raise the rent. Maybe use that storage closet." Hearing them discuss my room like it was already theirs didn't hurt like it once would have. Instead, it strengthened my resolve. They thought I'd leave quietly, embarrassed, maybe grateful. They were wrong. That night, I sat at my desk and pulled up everything I'd been collecting for months. Bank statements, texts, photos. I compiled them into a single clean document with dates, amounts, and short explanations. No insults, no anger, just facts. It was damning. By the time I finished, I had a complete, undeniable record of what they'd done. But I wasn't done. The next day, I reached out to my cousin, the one who'd made the boat announcement at Christmas. We hadn't spoken much since, but I knew he felt guilty. To my surprise, he agreed to meet at a cafe. "I figured you'd still be mad," he said. "I am," I admitted. "But this isn't about being mad. I need honesty. Did you know where the money came from when you made that toast?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I told them it felt wrong." "But your mom said you'd be fine." I didn't want to ruin Christmas. I appreciated his honesty, even though it stung. "Would you be willing to put that in writing?" He blinked. "Like a statement?" "Exactly," I said. "Just the truth, that you were told they used high savings, that you asked about it, and they said I wouldn't care." After a long pause, he agreed. "If it helps clear your name with the family, yeah, I owe you that." By that evening, his signed and dated statement was in my inbox, the final piece I hadn't realized I needed. Proof from someone outside the household. Armed with that, I began planning the reveal. It would happen the night before my move, during one of my parents' usual Friday dinners with extended family. I would go downstairs, stay calm, and present everything at once. The documentation, my cousin's statement, even short audio clips of my parents talking about teaching me a lesson. I drafted a polite but pointed message for the family group chat to send after. "Hi everyone. I wanted to share some context about what's been going on since Christmas. Here's a detailed breakdown of how my savings were used without my consent, plus written confirmation from cousin's name. I thought you should see this before hearing secondhand stories. No anger, no ranting, just facts." That week, I finalized everything, transferred rent and deposit to the landlord, confirmed the movers, set up utilities. Then, an unexpected advantage came. My new job announced me as lead for a major project, higher income starting next quarter. I didn't tell my parents. That would be part of the reveal, too. The night before, I walked through my apartment one last time. Boxes stacked, shelves empty, furniture pared down. It no longer felt like my home, and strangely, that didn't make me sad. At my kitchen table, I reviewed the plan one more time. Show them the evidence. Calmly announce I'm moving out tomorrow. Let them react, but ensure the truth is known. I was nervous. A part of me wondered if I should just leave quietly, but then I remembered the Christmas toast, the smirk on my dad's face, the drawer full of my stolen mail. No, they needed to see this. When Friday came, I was ready. I wore a plain button-up shirt, nothing fancy, just neat. I went downstairs when dinner started, sat quietly, and waited. My heart pounded, but my face stayed calm. When dessert was served, I set my phone on the table. "Before we go any further, there's something everyone should see," I said. Every head turned. My parents froze. I tapped the screen. The first page of the document appeared. This time, no hesitation. I was in control. And tomorrow morning, I wouldn't just be leaving the house. I'd be leaving this chapter of my life. The room went so quiet, I could hear the fridge hum. My mom's eyes flashed with panic before she masked it with a smile. "John," she said softly, "maybe this isn't the right time." "No," I said calmly. "This is exactly the right time." I turned the screen for everyone to see, scrolling to the first section, the bank withdrawals. Dates, amounts, balances before and after. Neat, professional, undeniable. This is my savings account, or what's left of it. These withdrawals were made without my permission. My uncle frowned. Wait, you didn't agree to this? No, I said. And here's the proof you made that decision knowing it wasn't yours to make. I played a short audio clip of my mom's unmistakable voice. He won't mind. He never stands up for himself anyway. The color drained from her face. My dad sat straighter, jaw tight. I opened my cousin's statement next. The signed and dated email confirming he asked if I knew. Confirming they told him I wouldn't care. Confirming they laughed about it. My cousin at the end of the table looked uncomfortable, but nodded. It's true, he said quietly. I didn't feel right then, and I still don't now. That seemed to land harder than anything I'd said. My aunt started to speak, but seeing her son nod, closed her mouth again. I swiped to photos of the dented car, the texts from my brother bragging about borrowing it. And just in case anyone thinks this is only about money, I said, here's every time my property was used, damaged, or taken without consent. No one touched dessert. My mom looked near tears. My dad's fists clenched, my brother shifting in his seat. This isn't about money, I said, letting the words hang. It's about respect, and you've made it clear you don't have any for me. My dad opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to tell you I'm done. I'm moving out tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Movers are booked. My accounts are changed. My savings are safe. There's nothing left for you to take. Silence. My mom's voice trembled. John, you can't just leave like this. We're family. We can work this out. No, I said quietly. We can't. Because working it out would mean you admitting what you did was wrong, and I don't think you're capable of that. I stood, slid my phone into my pocket, and looked around. Just so there's no confusion, I'll be sharing this with the rest of the family tonight. Everyone deserves to know what really happened. Before anyone could respond, I walked out. Voices murmured behind me, my aunt whispering, my dad swearing, my mom asking how I could do this. But I didn't stop. I went straight to my apartment, shut the door, and breathed. For a moment, I just stood there, letting the quiet settle. Then I opened the family group chat, sent the message and document, plus an audio clip. The effect was immediate. Within minutes, replies flooded in, shocked relatives, some siding with me, some asking my parents what they were thinking. A few stayed silent, which spoke louder than words. Calls came from my mom, my dad, my brother. I ignored them, poured a drink, and sat on my nearly empty couch. Downstairs, voices rose, chairs scraped, my dad's voice boomed, my aunt shouted back. Whatever illusion of control they had was gone. Later that night, I packed the last essentials into my car. Returning upstairs, I saw over 30 missed calls. I silenced my phone, lay back on the bed, and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in months, I felt light. Not happy exactly, but free. Tomorrow morning, I'd be gone. The next morning was crisp and quiet, like a clean slate. I woke before my alarm, dressed, and made coffee in the near-empty kitchen. Standing there, knowing that in a few hours this space wouldn't be mine anymore, felt exactly right. At 8:30, movement downstairs. My parents' voices low but sharp. Humiliated us last night. Everyone's talking. Can't believe he'd do that to his own family. Once, that might have Now it rolled off me like rain. At 9 o'clock sharp, the movers arrived. 3 efficient guys with a truck. We loaded boxes, then furniture, then clothes. By 10:30, my apartment was empty, except for the faint outline where my bed had been. My mom came upstairs as the movers carried the last box. "John," she said softly, "we need to talk before you go. You didn't have to do it this way. You could have come privately. Now the whole family thinks—" "They know because it's true," I interrupted, calm but firm. She opened and closed her mouth, searching for words. "Can't we start over? You're still our son." I almost laughed. "You had years to treat me like your son," I said evenly. "You chose to treat me like a bank account, a backup plan. I'm not angry anymore, Mom, but I'm done." Her face crumpled slightly, but she didn't try to stop me as I locked the apartment door one last time and handed her the key. Downstairs, my dad waited by the door, arms crossed, jaw set. "So that's it? You think you can just walk out and leave us to deal with this mess?" "Yes," I said simply. He scoffed. "You think you're better than us now because of a new job and a cheap apartment?" I met his eyes, calm as ever. "No, I just know my worth now, and I'm not staying where I'm not respected." For a moment, he looked like he wanted to argue or drag me back by force. But then he must have seen it. This wasn't a phase. I was really gone. He stepped aside without another word. I walked into the sunshine, got into my car, and drove away. Moving into my new apartment was a whirlwind, but by early afternoon, we had work to do. Essentials were unpacked, my bed set, my desk in place, my new coffee maker on the counter. I stood by the window for a long time, taking in the quiet, the space, the fact that everything here was mine. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and messages. I ignored them until evening, then sent one last group message. "Thanks to everyone who reached out. I'm safe, I'm happy, and I'm moving forward. I won't attend family events for a while, and ask that you respect my space. If anyone thinks this was an overreaction, feel free to review the documents again and ask if you'd tolerate it yourself. Take care." Replies came slowly. My aunt sent one word, "Understood." My cousin sent a thumbs.